Somewhere, there is a version of you that no one can reach. It learned to walk. It learned your name. It looked up at faces it loved and felt something close to the whole world. And you cannot remember a single second of it. Think about that. The first 3 years of your life were the most important years you will ever live. You learned to move. You learned to speak. You built the entire foundation of who you are. And almost none of it survived. This is not a flaw in you. Every human being on Earth has the same hole in their past. We have a name for it. It is called infantile amnesia. And the reason it happens is far stranger than simply forgetting. You did not lose those memories. In a very real sense, the person who made them no longer exists. Let us start with what you think you remember. Maybe you have an image from when you were 2, a birthday, a beach, a dog. It feels real. It feels like yours. But here is something uncomfortable. Most of your earliest memories are not memories at all. They are reconstructions. You were told a story. You saw a photograph, and your brain quietly built a scene around it, then stamped it with the feeling of remembering. The psychologist who first noticed this pattern was Sigmund Freud, more than a century ago. He gave infantile amnesia its name. He was wrong about almost everything that caused it, but he was right that it was there, sitting at the start of every human life, hiding the beginning from the person who lived it. So why does it happen? Why can a 2-year-old clearly remember her grandmother and then, years later, have no memory of her grandmother at all? For a long time, people assumed the answer was simple. Babies do not form memories. Their brains are too undeveloped. Nothing gets recorded, so there is nothing to recall. That answer turned out to be wrong. Babies form memories constantly. A 6-month-old can remember how to make a mobile move days later. A 1-year-old can copy an action she saw a full week earlier. Patricia Bauer, a developmental psychologist at Emory University, spent years showing exactly this. Young children remember. They remember in detail. The memories are real, and they are rich, and they are there. And then they vanish. This is the part that should unsettle you. The memories are made. They exist for a while, and then, sometime around the age of 7, a kind of tide comes in and pulls most of them out to sea. Children who could once describe an event in detail simply stop being able to find it. The door does not fail to open. The door is quietly bricked over. So the question is not why you failed to record your early life. The question is why your brain erased a recording it had already made. To understand that, you have to understand what your brain was actually doing in those first years. It was not trying to remember. It was trying to grow. Picture your infant brain as a city under furious construction. Every second, thousands of new connections are being built between neurons. Your brain in those years is making links faster than at any other point in your entire life. It is a place of constant new building. And new building, it turns out, is the enemy of old memory. Here is where the science gets beautiful. A pair of neuroscientists, Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn, studied a part of the brain called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is where new memories are first laid down. In babies, this region is doing something extraordinary. It is generating huge numbers of brand new neurons, a process called neurogenesis. Fresh cells, by the thousands, pushing into the existing network. And every time a new neuron muscles its way in, it rewires the connections around it. Think about what that means. A memory is not a thing sitting in a drawer. A memory is a pattern, a specific web of connections between specific cells. Now flood that web with new neurons. Rewire it. Reroute it. The pattern that held the memory is disturbed. The path back to it is broken. The memory was never deleted on purpose. It was simply built over, the way a new road erases the field it was poured across. Franklin and Jocelyn showed this in animals. When they slowed down the birth of new neurons, the young animals kept their early memories for longer. When they sped it up in older animals, those animals started forgetting like infants. The forgetting and the building were the same process, seen from two sides. So your missing childhood is not a sign that nothing happened. It is the receipt for the fastest growth your brain will ever do. You paid for that growth with the memory of the years it took place. But there is a second reason, and it sits even closer to who you are. Ask yourself a strange question. To remember something happening to you, what do you first need? You need a you. You need a sense of yourself as a person moving through time. A self that was here yesterday, is here today, and will be here tomorrow. Without that thread, an event has nothing to attach to. It is just a flash with no one at the center of it. And a baby does not yet have that thread. The psychologist Catherine Nelson spent her career studying how children build it, and she found that the thread is woven mostly out of language. When a parent says, "Remember when we went to the park and you fed the ducks and you laughed?" They are not just chatting. They are teaching the child the shape of a memory. They are showing her how to take a moment and place it inside a story with herself as the main character. Children who have these conversations earlier and richer tend to have earlier first memories. The memory and the language grow together. Before you had the words to tell the story of yourself, there was no shelf to put the memories on. They were happening to someone who did not yet know they were a someone. There is research that makes this almost visible. Carol Peterson, in Canada, asked young children about events from their past, then came back years later to ask the same children again. The youngest children, the ones who had been very small when the events happened, lost the memories between visits. The thread had not been strong enough to hold them. So put the two halves together. Your infant brain was rebuilding itself so fast that old memory patterns were constantly overwritten, and the self that those memories needed to attach to did not yet fully exist. The recordings were made on tape that was being erased by a person who had not yet been born into their own story. This is why infantile amnesia is not really forgetting. Forgetting is when you had something and lost it. This is something stranger. The memories belonged to a self that was still under construction, in a brain that was still rebuilding the room they were stored in. The you who lived those years and the you reading this are not quite the same continuous person. They are more like the first and final draft of the same story, and the early pages were rewritten so completely that they no longer exist. And yet, those vanished years are the most powerful years you will ever live. You did not remember learning your native language, but you speak it perfectly. You do not remember being held, but the way you were held shaped how you trust other people for the rest of your life. You do not remember the faces that leaned over your crib, but your sense of whether the world is safe was poured, silently, in exactly those moments. This is the twist that should stay with you. The years you cannot remember are not gone. They did not disappear. They simply stopped being memories and became something deeper. They became you. You carry them everywhere, in how you flinch or how you reach, in what makes you feel at home and what makes you uneasy, in the shape of your fears and the reflex of your comfort. The first 3 years did not get filed away in the part of the brain that tells stories. They got built into the walls. So the next time you try to reach back, past your earliest memory, into that soft dark before the story of you began, and you find nothing there, do not feel cheated. You are not staring at an empty room. You are standing inside it. That version of you that no one can reach, it was never lost. You have simply been wearing it all along.